Welcome to Daring to Share Connection Through Conversation. This is episode 3, and joining me is Scott De Freitas-Graff, John De Freitas, and our community guest, Stacie Kirkpatrick. Welcome, everybody.
Hi. Hi, Diane.
Hi there.
Hi. Today, our featured author sharing his feelings about going through the COVID experience and using integrity as his guide is Scott De Freitas-Graff. And Scott is one of the co-authors of Volume 1, Daring to Share, which has actually just been re-released in its second edition. It's got a beautiful new cover. We took out what was there, and it's now called Dare to Hear, and it's second edition, Volume 1. So I'm so excited. We'll be launching that in the next month or so with an Amazon launch. And that'll be amazing to have that out there with me as Chapter 1, Love. So I'm super excited about that. Okay, so we're going to get started right away. And Scott, I know that we're in what week are we in of this self-isolation? 4?
3?
3 or 4? Is it only 3? Wow.
I think it's only 3.
Okay.
It's funny, the other day, John said to me, what day is it today? And I'm like, does it matter?
It doesn't. I know.
We all kind of hit this timeless thing right now.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out which day to do the journaling workshop, and I thought, is Saturday okay? And then I'm like, of course Saturday is okay. It doesn't matter. It's like every day's a weekend, right?
Absolutely.
So Scott, can you share its integrity? So integrity is a big thing for me because that personal integrity pretty much defines authenticity for me, doing the right thing. And then expanding that into the world. So I'm just curious as to how you're using integrity, or if you are, through this whole process with COVID.
Well, I think with a lot of values, it's difficult to look at something like COVID through the lens of integrity, except, as you said, it's personal values and doing the right thing. And I think there's lots of opportunities through this experience to do the right thing, the social distancing, keep your grocery shopping down to once a week, stay in the house as much as possible, or actually stay home. Where we live, we're fortunate enough that it's a very sparsely populated area compared to the big centers. So I can go down to the beach and not see a single person and go for a walk and take my dog out and pass the time. Following the government guidelines, the sooner we all just kind of accept that this is our future for the short term, the sooner we'll get through this, the sooner it'll run its course, we'll get that curve flattened and away we go. So, getting back to integrity, we know what the right thing to do is here. And we just need to do it.
Yes, and I imagine in a small town too, you'd be like shamed right to pieces if you did the wrong thing. As anywhere,
sorry, just to expand on that, I saw this woman who I do know in a grocery store, and at her home, it's her and her husband, and they have 4 kids, 3 of whom are teenagers. And her shopping cart was loaded up. And I knew, with all those mouths to feed, those growing bodies,
yes.
She was doing a normal weekly grocery shop, and the looks people were giving her.
I know.
People were telling her she's hoarding, and
they were? Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
There was a lot of judgment going on, not from the people who worked at the grocery store, but from the people around her. She had 3 boxes of cereal in there. Again, I looked at it and went, wow, that's a big
teenagers, that's nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I find that interesting because I did struggle with that. Like I did initially go to the, Costco and fill up my cart. And I'll tell you why, though. It was not because I was hoarding. It was because there's kind of a catch to that. Like I needed to self-isolate because my husband and myself were both immune compromised. And he's old. And so I actually wanted to do the right thing by getting a lot of food home, and so that it would sustain me for a certain amount of time. And I was making stews and soups and everything like we talked about before, so that I would have food for the long term. So I thought it was a really smart idea, and it was integral. But I'm sure anyone looking at my cart would have thought I was hoarding.
No, exactly. And, you
So
know, and that's the unfortunate thing. People are making judgments.
yes, that is a hard thing. And that's not integral.
No, no, not
So
at
I'm
all.
also curious with you, like you're a guy on social media.
Mm.
So I've struggled with the integral way to respond to social media posts and to comments that are made on my site and on my page and everything. So, but you seem to be doing a really good job of moving from a place of humor. So I'm just curious as to, is that the integral way that you would show up? Like, is that the authentic way that you would show up? I mean, I know the answer to that, but I want you to tell everybody else.
Well, it's very authentic.
Yes.
You know, I've got a very well-honed sense of irony. And I think my default to coping with anything really is humor. And, you know, let's face it, there's a lot of gallows humor in this situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, showing up authentically, definitely. There is a lot of information out there. It is really easy to go down that rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
And really at the end of the day, as long as you're informed, you know, how it's more about keeping our spirits up because we know we're in this.
Yes.
And that's kind of how I see it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, your personality certainly comes into play within all that because, I mean, let's go over to John. Like, I think that John and I are similar in that we are the human advocate. Like, well, I shouldn't speak for you. I'm definitely self-righteous. I mean, I I believe in doing the right thing, and I want people to do the right thing. But within that, I have to be really careful integrally, like moving from a place of integrity, because if I go too much on the wrong side, then I am going to a place of judgment. So, and that is not moving from a place of integrity for me. So it really is about checking myself at the door with that and maintaining a balance of, yes, I think that's the right thing to do. How can I communicate that in a way that does not show up as judgment, and then model the right way to be and what to do. So John, you seem to be like, I know that you feel the same way with a lot of that stuff, but I feel like you don't necessarily struggle with how you show up on social media with it.
Well, thank you, Diana. And just to address your point, I guess anyone like yourself, you know, as someone with a great deal of, you know, respect for everyone, you know, someone striving to be authentic all the time, you know, this notion of judgment can feel like just a bad word, you know, but in essence, we're all making judgments all the time.
Yes.
About how we live our own lives, and certainly about how others are living their lives in ways that impact us. So I think in all fairness, you know, judgment is a useful, necessary tool that all of us rely upon every day. When it comes to really emotionally impacted crisis situations like what we're in right now,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, you know, there are certain extremes in you know, levels of judgment and our own buttons being pushed and how we are reacting to the behavior of others. Everything from, you know, calling out people who are hoarding to, you know, the toilet paper. I mean, our society is reacting, you know, in judgment. But it's not a bad thing to make judgments, at least in terms of how you were going to respond to the situation in the world. For me, you know, I was thinking about integrity, and I believe there are multiple levels. My integrity, much like a lot of us, is to, you know, just do what we're asked to do, which is to, you know, keep the social distancing and, you know, isolating and all those various kinds of things. So on the personal level, you know, for me, that integrity is important.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to believe that, you know, most people are really paying attention to what we're being asked to do for the betterment of all. The other side of it is, you know, some interesting pieces in my own, you know, process. I recently was laid off at my job, so I lasted a bit longer than others. But during that time, you know, I made certain choices even before the official announcements that Justin Trudeau made around, you know, staying home. So, and so at that point in time, there were two things. One, that a very close friend of mine who lives in Victoria, I see her maybe 3 times a year, you know, a week before everything really came home, I said, it's better if you don't come. And she reached out and said, should I still come? And I said, you know what, I just would feel better just with everything going on. And a piece of that was, of course, concern for Scott. Now, she's probably the safest person I could imagine, but there was a piece of that in terms of integrity it felt better. It felt
Sure.
even without an immediate threat. And then, of course, everything, sort of came to light. Another situation came up at work where I was being confronted with the what ifs of certain types of people who might come in the door, who may be exhibiting symptoms or possibly literally carrying the virus. And during that process and conversations with some, I had to say, if I ever got to a point, if I was in a situation where I felt at risk, my integrity would say, although I feel a responsibility to my employer and to my boss and
yes,
where I need it, my integrity would be to say, I'm sorry, I'm protecting my husband,
yes,
if not necessarily myself. So there's certain levels of integrity for me that are very, very deeply personal.
yeah,
Having said that, I think there's also, as you and I always chat, there's the personal and political elements of integrity.
yes.
So it was very interesting to me, if it wasn't so dire and so stressful for everyone, is, where our governments are going in terms of integrity. There's many things to look at. And as public, as citizens, I think it is important to be paying attention to what's happening in a positive way. I look at, sort of a bit of controversy right now with Justin Trudeau and him being constantly barraged with questions about what are you doing in response to, Trump's,
Yes.
blockade of these masks coming into the country. And so for me, I will say I've always really respected and really liked Justin Trudeau, and so I believe very much in what he's done for years now.
Well, he's doing a great job, I think,
Exactly.
right now.
But even if it's just political, even if he's being very cautious, there's a certain level of a Canadian identity for me that resonates when he says, well, no, we're dealing with various levels of government and we're going to, work with the American administration to, let them know that it's, we need to have these, this trade, we need to support each other in services and so on. Very different from the position of, Donald Trump, which, I'm sorry, I hope it's okay to say here.
Oh,
but
yeah, you can say anything you
there's
want.
an example of someone who, for many of us, we kind of say there's someone with a lack of integrity in terms of how he's led his government, in terms of his response to the virus, in terms of going back and saying different things about.
Yeah, so I think that sorry to cut you off, but I want to just share this piece. I think that you're absolutely right, because that just came up for me. What you were just saying is that there is a difference between personal integrity and like political integrity or business integrity, that kind of thing. Because definitely in my mind, Trump is showing up within it is his own personal integrity, because it's what he values, which is money, economics. So that is his personal integrity, rather than moving from a place of what is best for everybody involved. And on a global level, like he's a very competitive, we don't want to get into the bashing of him, but that's how I see him, as a very competitive person. Competition for me has no place within authenticity. So, the only person I compete with is myself, because I want to be a better person every day. But he, and that's not to say that I'm better than him or anybody. I mean, in my view, I think I am, but from his values are what they are, and he's very true to them. So it's about what people want to accept, I suppose. And I had a conversation with someone yesterday about this, is that is, I guess, my worry or my concern. And I'm not staying up at night or anything, everybody. So don't, like, people say I'm going from fear or panic, but it is just a reality of what I see, is that we are governed and led by politics, by the government. So unless something is mandated from the government, worldwide, from our governments, we may think that the world is shifting and everything's going to be so beautiful after this is done, because we're just going to learn and have a huge awakening. And I do believe many of us will. But in the end, we're led, our worlds, our countries are led by money. So unless the government feels that shift and wants to make that change, I hate to say it, but there's a concern that we're all going to go back to where we started.
Yeah.
And that's because of their own personal values.
Yeah.
and their business values.
And I think, as you say, it speaks to, not only, governments and of course, sort of Trump representing a world power, a very significant one.
Yeah.
We do have a very divided population amongst, American people themselves, a controversial debate around, how things are being handled, the safety measures, and even, just this notion of, sort of Trump's hoarding masks for the benefit of the country.
There you go.
To me, acting with integrity, at least I can say, coming back to Justin Trudeau, is whether this is just politicking, there's still a certain level where I feel a great deal of respect and appreciation.
Yes.
We're
Totally.
not going to descend into, sort of, any kind of conflict with the U.S. It's not what we're about.
No.
And interestingly, I saw an article, a news article the other day about him, where that person literally, this is a U.S. Reporter, journalist, who said that Justin Trudeau is the moral leader of the free world.
He totally is.
All of the support and welcoming refugees, all of this has been taking place for years, and to the point where Justin won't even respond to U.S. journalists asking him for interviews because he's no. Trump doesn't appreciate that. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go into the miasma, which is sound politically, but also it speaks to, again, integrity. It's like,
well, it does. Yeah, like he's responding, like that whole mask thing. He didn't even really respond to it like verbally as Trump would have, probably, like with judgment and nasty language. He just simply responded by recalibrating and asking for help from China.
Yes.
Which he got. So that was a very clear message to me that wasn't loud.
Yes.
But beautifully done with integrity and dignity. And yes, it's like, that's fine. I'm not going to argue with you. He didn't say that. That was I think the intention behind his reaction was just, I'm not going to argue with you, but I have a country that I need to protect. So where can I get them?
Yes, exactly.
And he just did that. So he didn't engage or feed, Trump and how Trump reacted to him.
Or get people sort of in a fear state based on.
That's right. No, he's totally calm.
Should be reacting,
yes.
take measures,
yes. Beautiful
measures. That's not who we are. But interestingly, for me, I feel like that represents me as a Canadian. I'm not going to say
yes. Same.
Like,
yeah.
I have to agree with that, John. Yeah.
But I feel like
Stacie, what are you thinking?
Citizens and our whole culture is different from a U.S. culture. So
yes. Yeah. Totally.
No, what I was going to say was I have to agree with John that a lot of Canadian population, we're all acting very integral. I mean, you get your few people that are not so great, but that happens everywhere. But sure. I think in general, we are seeing this as an opportunity to be who we really are, and act as we are to the rest of the world, and show the rest of the world that yes, we are an integral part of how the world works. We do consume a vast amount of resources, just like the United States does, and maybe not on the same scale because clearly we don't have the same population. But I mean, we are a consumer country, very much so. And in that, but we are showing that we are able to go to China, for instance, because, Trump has told us, no, we're not getting the masks. Well, what if the shoe was on the other foot? Would Trump be able to go to China and ask for those masks? I'm not so sure he could, because, the United States has time and time again showed themselves to be kind of the fourth population. And I mean, I'm not saying the people, because I've met some absolutely gorgeous, wonderful human beings that come from the United States. But it just seems that they're the superpowers seem to be very, very pushy, and it's unfortunate. It is unfortunate, and very true to what you said too, Diana, that, Trump is being true to himself. He is being integral himself because he is largely a businessman, and it brings to mind that whole entire comment about the churches being up and running as of April as of April 12th, Easter, whatever it is.
Yes.
And forgive me, I'm probably wrong on the date, but and I just sat there and I was like, it's because he wants them open and ready for business. He wants to get the economy started again because he's a businessman. It doesn't matter if this whole entire world is on shutdown. He wants to get things up and running again because he's being true to himself. He feels better, so he thinks that everybody else will feel better if this plan goes into motion.
Yes.
And I can see that. But back to Scott saying, and I wanted to comment when Scott was saying about humor and dealing with it as his own integral self. You've been that way since high school, you know, and that's one of the reasons why I think I gravitated towards being close friends with you, is because it was very easy. You know, you made the entire high school situation very easy to deal with, right? Because it's not easy, right? Being in high school for the most part. But I think, you know, having humor and but still being a part of who you are and being integral to who you are is exactly how I think this country is going to model itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I think that Justin Trudeau is being a model of integrity.
I agree.
And daring to share, and my whole coaching career has been about authenticity, and authenticity is really about modeling self, modeling true self, best self, with emotional and social intelligence. So making sure that you're taking everybody into account, which I think Justin Trudeau is doing an amazing job of that. You can tell that he's a mindful person.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think having his wife be sick too, he really has had a true grasp of exactly what his people, his Canadians are having to go through, you know, and dealing with it on a first line basis, where maybe Trump doesn't have that kind of closeness or I guess that intimacy with, I guess is the best word to use.
Yes.
Because he doesn't have, I'm not sure that he has anybody so close to him that has this, you know, and wouldn't know how to firsthand deal with it, you know. So I think that's put Trudeau on a more emotional level.
Yes. Well, you know how we talked about, sorry, Scott, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, you know, just further to Stacie's point, when Justin Trudeau gets out there at 8:15 Vancouver time every morning to address the nation with updates and programs and whatnot, it's him by himself at a podium in front of his front door.
Yes.
Trump does it. He's on DS with 30 advisors. And
that are not social distancing.
They're not social distancing. So there we have the modeling, right? There's Justin Trudeau. Everybody is miles away from him because he's social distancing. Yeah. And then there's Trump. You know, and just another comment I wanted to make about Donald Trump and integrity. He is exactly what the American people elected. He is a reality TV star who made his brand by blustering and blowing his top and getting angry, and that is who he is.
He is.
And, you know, like this whole Mexican wall thing, I know we haven't talked about it in a long time because it's not sexy, but, you know, are they still doing it, and are the Mexicans still paying for it? Because that's all I heard about for 2 years.
I know. Yeah, it's
and
not
that's
happening.
also the reason I stopped listening to the American news.
I know. I think that I actually have some compassion for him, believe it or not, because I wouldn't want to be living in that mind of his. But I also feel like, you know, when we talked about either moving from fear or love, that was one of our segments. And I actually feel like he's moving from a place of fear. Like that's why he shows up that way. It's like fear creates like denial. So, I mean, it wasn't that long ago, a couple of days ago, when he said, I don't know what everyone's worked up about. People get the flu. It's the same as the flu. People die of the flu. That statement is, you know, you can look at that and laugh and say, isn't that ridiculous? But really, that comes from a place of fear. Because it's denial.
You know, there's so many things, and you know, for me, is the will to dominate, the desire to dominate. I mean, let's face it, it's the one world superpower that he represents. And I'm not saying every single American thinks the same way, but as Scott pointed out, I mean, they voted him in. This larger than life personality who's the strength to rule a nation or what have you. And then I think those who hold power, and for me, if it's a lack of integrity, if you're holding power for power's sake, then, you know, it's going to come across, you know, you're going to see, you know, the fears and the motivations behind it. Whereas,
well, the real person comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you know, I mean, I don't care about comparing the two of them because they're the two people that we need to be focused on right now. They're our leaders. I look at, you know, I wouldn't want that job for all the money in the world. I mean, can you imagine being in Trump's position and having to do that? Like, I would be a total basket case. There's no way. Or Justin Trudeau, the same. But if you look at those two people, those leaders of these countries, and the task that they have ahead of them, that is very long. Like, we haven't even, it's only been 3 weeks, like we said. And look at how Justin Trudeau is showing up compared to Trump. They're two opposite end of the spectrums. And it goes back to our point of what we talked about, love versus fear. And that's what we have. We have fear and we have love. And we are so fortunate to be on the love end with Justin Trudeau. Like,
oh my gosh.
Well, all that he's doing to support, you know, families.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I mean, yes, it's money, and every government needs to do something for us. But there's, you know, a genuine relief. Like, I was even surprised the extent of some of the financial aid packages.
The CERB, me too.
Huge for so many people. That's billions of dollars. So that again is another sign. I think, you know, moving from love or fear. At least this is a, you know, a mindfulness. I mean, there might be fear involved, but certainly mindfully looking and compassion.
Yes, not going to the panic. So I totally believe in using fear. Like, I totally believe in feeling it and using it, and not going to panic, but using it to make the right decision, to be curious about it and find clarity about what's next on the agenda. And I think that, where was I heading with that? I did have a point.
Moving from love and fear.
I did have a point.
Fear motivates.
Oh, that, you know, Justin Trudeau also talked about the other day that people in, like us, are actually reaching out to him and saying, what can we do? Is there something we can do? And he's listening.
Yes.
Because now he's working on a program whereby people in communities can offer their skills and talents to support others. Nice. Which I think is brilliant.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he's listening, that's a big thing too.
Well, you know, and again, that's also part of our Canadian identity, right? How can I help? How can I help? And we're made fun of for that, but hey, I think we're pretty amazing people. Stacie, how are you using integrity? Are you feeling like it's showing up for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've used integrity every day in my life. I have to say, there was a short time there, I think, that I was thinking that maybe I shouldn't be so integral, but I don't know. I had to, again, be true to myself. And even, I mean, I was a teacher for many years. I still am to a certain degree, but not at the collegiate setting that I was at. And even when I was teaching in class, there literally would be moments where I'd have these brain farts like yours, where you lose track of what you were thinking of. And then you quite literally, I would look at my students and I'm like, okay, I've literally lost my train of thought, or I've messed this up, or I can't believe I did this. Yes, even teachers are infallible. Yeah. You know, I think being your most honest self, really, people have more respect for you as a person, and you as a instructor, or you as a life coach, or whatever it is that you are in your life, wherever you are in your life. I think people gravitate to people that are completely honest, you know, and certainly with even in services, like I've seen time and time again, one of my very close friends, he constantly gets jobs simply because, not because he's charging less than everybody else, but simply because he's integral. He knows exactly what he does and the type of job that he does for the person. And he says, this is what I'm going to do. And he does it. He follows through with it. That's it. That's all. And I think we all need to be who we really are. And
Yeah.
yes, you're going to come across those people that will take you for who you are in your life. But you got to accept that as a give and take situation, you know. And certainly too, you know, coming to a place where a very healthy relationship with God and religion, I think, and that I had to come to. I want to say that even in high school I wasn't there, but right now I am, and that has also helped tremendously, you know, knowing that being honest and being integral to who I am, that, you know, I have somebody that's behind me regardless.
Yeah, there's real sense of security there with that.
There really is. And I think
Yes.
that helps tremendously. And it helps me believe that, you know, regardless of what happens, you just got to wait it out and see what happens, and truly believe in something of a higher power, maybe, you know.
Well, we talked about that too, having the faith and the trust and the hope. Yeah, it is very important.
But I think that also is part and parcel of being integral, you know,
Yes.
trusting who you are and believing in yourself, right? So.
Yeah, and John is has that spiritual part too. I do too. I think we all do to a certain degree, and in different ways. It's just how we tap into that. And at times like this, it's very important to tap into that and not ignore it.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I like that as well, Stacie, because you sort of point out from that spiritual perspective. And what we're talking, I mean, integrity is all about our moral character, our moral philosophy.
Yeah.
In terms of spirituality, I mean, it's very much about, you know, the basic values of love and compassion and help your neighbor, and, you know, all of these various things that motivate us. So I think very deeply it's important to, you know, for all of us to connect with our own spirituality, not only as a, you know, a support but also as a moral compass. And as we're talking, you know, going back to the personal, I mean, some of the things that I also realize is we're just at the beginning of what might be months and months. So all of us are going to be tested in terms of integrity moving through. I mean, there's no formula, you know, there's not even a right or wrong at this point. And I think to allow for our various reactions and the authentic reactions and our responses with social intelligence, hopefully we can address others, or whether it's through social media or in our daily lives, you know, coming from a place of our own integrity. So believing that's important, I think, is really, and I know, Diana, you were one person who, you know, has the greatest integrity of most people I know, and you always come from that place. It's always at the forefront of everything that you do. You always pave the way for mutual and respectful conversations. So you know what, I think all of us are being challenged to come back to that. Do I go and do I buy that extra? Do I really need that extra when I'm shopping now? Do I care what people think? You know, I've got a baby or whatever. All of us needs to rely on our own integrity, and who gives a damn, you know, sort of what everybody else thinks, because, you know, it's really important for us to honor, you know, that place within ourselves.
Yeah, and I kind of worry about integrity in a different way too, in that I feel like if this is going to be drawn on for months and months, and as a result, I'm concerned about our capacity to be able to continue doing what we're doing, the social distancing. And I don't want to question people's integrity within that, but I just feel like the capacity of that will wane because we'll be so yearning for connection. And the way it was, I feel like it's part of our grieving, and it's going to be really hard to sustain. I have to admit, I feel like I will be challenged in that way. I know that I will always do the right thing because I'm just that person. It doesn't make me better than anyone. I just feel like that's part of my personality. You know, we talked about the Virgo and doing the right thing. So, but I do think that it's going to be a challenge for people, like, as a whole. It's going to be tough. Like, we are going to have people who are going to just say, you know what, I just need to get together with people. And I worry about that because their integrity will be challenged.
Yeah, and I have to, if I can speak to that for a moment, Diana, I have to agree with that. I mean, me and my husband, we married just a few years ago, and he has a family grown, and my son is grown. Between the two of us, we have 5 boys, so it's quite interesting, an interesting dynamic. But all of our kids are grown and moved on. They all have lives of their own, and they're all living away from home, which is great in one sense. But at the same time, I have to say that we miss our boys tremendously. Even just now, it's only been a few weeks, we would do anything to gather them all together and keep them all in one house. We'd probably go absolutely stir crazy and out of our minds, but at least we know that our kids would be safe.
Absolutely.
And I could see that being the forefront, is that families just need to somehow pull together and congregate together, just to have that one-on-one human connection with each other.
Yeah, and that'll be the catalyst. I do agree with that. I agree, Stacie, because my mother-in-law's in a nursing home just recently, and we had to do it. It was an emergency. And we talked to her, and every time we talked to her, she's so sad and upset. And like, there was a day last week when I said to Hank, I can go on a plane and be safe. I'll make a mask and I'll do this and that. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, no, you can't do that.
Exactly.
And just like, I was talking to my mom the other day, and her cleaner has just come back from a trip. She was on holiday and she's just come back. And she asked my mom if she wanted her to come and clean. And my mom said to me, well, what do you think? She's okay. She doesn't have any symptoms. And I'm like, no, Mom, like, no.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
we all have those moments. We're going to start having those moments. Well, it's okay. I really do believe we will.
I also think there's so much information out there, because even in the first couple of weeks, every day they were coming out with new protocols and new suggestions, and what's a suggestion and what's a rule. I have this friend that I was talking to on FaceTime the other day, and I'm like, oh, so what are you up to tonight? He's like, oh, I'm having so-and-so and so-and-so over for dinner and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I thought you were self-quarantining. And he's like, well, I am. I haven't left the house in 2 weeks.
There you go.
Then
so it's also a perception or
wow.
The understanding of it.
And then to tell me about all the visitors he's had for 2 weeks.
Which I don't get, how you cannot get that. But that's a judgment, I guess, on my part, because I don't know. I mean, are you watching the news?
Yeah, and are they? And, I think a lot of times, I mean, we're human beings. A lot of times we hear what we want to.
Yes, yeah.
But I think, again, go online, get your research done, find out. There's lots of information out there. The government, and I've never been that guy to go, the government knows, the government's where to go. But really, in this case, the government is where to go to get this information.
Yeah.
And, Canada.com even has tons of great information.
Yeah, there's lots of information. I mean, probably those are the best sites to go to rather than social media. The things that I post, I try to find from good source, and I'm, my son-in-law is a nurse, and he sends me a lot of good stuff from good source, but you do need to be careful. I mean, and use common sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's just it. I mean, your poor friend is now being infected literally by everybody that he's come into contact. I mean, he might as well have been out shopping and doing everything else that he's wanted to do.
And he probably is going out shopping, and now doesn't even know he may have the virus and is don't know.
Well, exactly. And I mean, we don't even have accurate numbers. We
don't. No.
And where we live on Vancouver Island Health releases statistics where they're like, oh yeah, we have 300 cases on Vancouver Island, but they're not telling us where. And so they could all be right here in Parksville. They could all be in Victoria. We have no idea.
No idea. And those are only the people who have been tested.
Exactly.
Like, there's a statistic that's for every one person that's tested positive, they can infect up to 8 to 10 people. And they could be walking around with it and you don't know.
Yeah, symptoms. Exactly.
Whether that's accurate or not, I don't know either. But
well, there's other evolutions to the virus. Scott just pointed out today as well that I don't remember where it was. There was a zoo where they had some tigers. Here we are with tigers. But the virus now is now infecting animals. So the every day we're learning more and more about the very aggressive spread of the virus. And what does it mean for that? Because to move towards animals now is a possibility of the virus mutating and becoming even more deadly. So it's, who knows? I think it just comes back to as cautious as we can possibly be. Maybe compassion for those who just don't get it, but a recognition of no, we need to remind them to the degree we're comfortable, or educate them or support them or whatever, and say, listen, please don't go out of your house, connect with me, you know what? So that way we can all sort of, hopefully make a difference every single day, because it will be tougher by far, I think, for those who have very different ideas or values to stay home. Youth, as an example, would be different values. And, can you really judge or blame a 13 or 14-year-old for having no concept, no life experience to inform choices when they're gathering in clusters or groups? Well, how are you going to engage them in a different way then? So it becomes, almost a creative process too, to find ways to
that's
continue.
huge. Yeah. I'm so happy that I don't have young children at home right now. That would be a nightmare. That would really be a nightmare.
I've seen, just to address that, a lot of my friends with small kids or younger kids, they've been doing these crazy TikTok videos. And it's almost like the kids have kind of taken this on as this project.
Yes.
And I've seen some amazing, brilliant, creative stuff coming out of all these little homes.
That's so
here.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure Danielle's doing that.
Actually, Autumn is all over that.
There you go. And crafts and things. And I took a walk around here in the neighborhood, and there were a few houses that had like messages in the windows. They were doing this stained glass windows and the hearts, and and rocks, like little painted rocks and things like with messages. So, I mean, but again, I don't want to go to the negative side of it or the pessimistic side, but I can see that waning at some point. Like we're peaking with that, and it's I don't know how long we can sustain it. And so that's I guess a little bit of a worry for me, but we can only do what we can do today.
Mm-hmm.
All I've done is I've mentally committed to September.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Because I can go, okay, 6 months, I can do the long haul. If I go 6 weeks or, Easter, then when that day comes and goes, I'm going to be horribly disappointed.
I know.
And I know how my brain works. So, if in June all of a sudden the doors open and yay, back to normal, then great.
That'll be a bonus for you because you've already had that. Yeah, I think that's a really good way of doing it. Just before our call, I got a message from the builders in Ontario, because we're building a house in Ontario. We're going to move back, Stacie, to Kingston. And we're supposed to be moving there in September. And they just got notification from the construction people, the organization that rules them, or whatever you call it. They've stopped all construction now.
Yes.
So Ontario's caught up to BC. Like everything is being shut down now.
Yes.
So that means, but I mean, I'm actually not sad about that, because I also can't sell my house here.
Yeah.
So everything is it's a domino effect, right?
It quite is.
Actually okay.
It's a ripple, and it's all a ripple effect. Anything we do, we have to realize that is a ripple effect as of this point.
Yes.
And I think it always has been, but I think it's more concentrated now. And we have to realize, back to the integrity, the integrity also is a ripple effect. If we show integrity, I believe that integrity will show up for us.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And people that are true to us will always remain that way because we're true to them.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well said.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we'll close the call. I just want to invite any of the people who are viewing this that I am starting a little journaling workshop on Saturday mornings. This April 11th, I think, is Saturday morning. And it will be at 10 o'clock PST. So that's like 1 o'clock EST, I think. Yeah. And it's free, and you do need to buy your free ticket through Eventbrite, and it's all in the link in Facebook on my pages. And it's just a way to support you to work through all of your feelings and whatever you're going through. with this whole COVID, let's call it a journey. That sounds too positive, but let's be positive. The whole journey, and in order to feel connected. And I'm only going to accept 8 people, so you can share that with people. And who knows if, you know, if we create 8 stories, well, there's another Daring to Share book maybe. So
Awesome.
yeah, who knows, right? So thanks you guys for coming on. And as a community guest, Stacie, you're now welcome to come to any of the calls from here on in. So I will always send you a Zoom link, and then you can just join if you want to or not.
Lovely. Thank you.
Yeah. And the next one will be done on Thursday, posted on Friday, and I'll be the featured author, and it will be about truth.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So thanks for joining, and we'll see you all on Thursday maybe, or another time. Thanks, guys.
Thursday.
Thank you.